In the midst of the upcoming 2020 elections, there's a lot of question and chaos about who to vote for, how to vote, and even who's right about all of this. And we don't pretend we have a right answer, but we have a clue of some people who might.
That's right. All of your favorite childhood characters who voluntarily battle each other to the death, aka Super Smash Bros. Okay, I've had too much coffee. Let's get this started. So, the way that we have this graph organized is by both political parties and by efficacy versus apathy. So we have our efficacy-apathy scale, or the up and down scale. So this is kind of like the people who are really, really into it and like are totally into like, let's go march for civil rights, let's go protest for our guns, I don't know. Just coming up with a random issue on the fly. And then down here is kind of like more of the people who are like, they'd rather just stay home. They don't really feel like their vote really matters. So we stick them down here. That's their punishment. And then, okay, so over here, we have the Democrats. And, you know, the Democrats are like pro-equality to everyone, and also pro-government regulation, which is I don't know, potential con for people who see it that way. Over here, we have the Republicans. And so they are pro-traditional values, very, very religious. People kind of stick to this side of the spectrum, and yeah, that's about it. And then here, this line, we have the independent parties. Note to the viewers, I guess, this does not mean that they are centrist between Democrat and Republican. This means that we just, it's not by political ideologies, but by like the independent could either be more extreme or more centrist than either of these. It's just here. And yeah, I think that's it.
And now for some special eliminations. First of all, we're eliminating Hero because although he's pretty boss, he's not one single character. He's 4 characters, and that just makes for a very bad personality mesh. Also, on that note, we're cutting all DLCs because you can't pay for politics, obviously. We're also going to cut Sheik because that's just man Zelda, and if you show up to the polls cross-dressing, I don't think your ideology is going to drift that much. And also, we're cutting Zero Suit Samus because she's just sexy Samus, and let's be honest, your political vote does not depend on how much wind is on your mid-thigh.
Okay. Also, quick note. The way that we have sorted all of these characters is up to our digression and like our interpretation of them. So if you ever want to disrespectfully disagree, note on disrespectfully, just point out a map where the nearest cliff is, because that's where I will be. Let's start with the Democratic apathetic people. So these are the people who are kind of really like into the civil rights and all of that stuff and like all that jazz. But they much rather, like, either they don't feel like their vote counts, and they would much rather just stay at home and eat chips and ice cream. So, let's be good.
Wii Fit Trainer is the type of person to wake up in the morning, smell the fresh mountain air, and drink some herbal tea. Very democratic, very environmentally concerned. However, doesn't really want to vote. Who wants to leave that mountain? Diddy Kong is young. He wants free college. He wants to move out of his uncle's apartment. And let's be honest, banana isn't currency. But he doesn't really know what's going on in politics because he doesn't speak human that well. Ice climbers are very environmentally concerned. They want to keep their mountains. They want to continue climbing those mountains, and they want to do it as a team. But when it comes to getting out the vote, the only thing they care about is climbing another mountain. They're not, if the polling place isn't on top of Mount Everest, they're not going to go.
All in all, Ryu, he's not really that active in politics. All he really cares about is getting stronger as a person and as a fighter. It's his world travel and sense of justice that puts him in the Democratic leaning. Jigglypuff puts people to sleep, which is both really fun if you really need a nap, but also it's not that great for politics. Ivysaur has such... his apathy is insane, but his slight democratic leanings only really mean that he gets caught in the middle of like ideology and like political talk, so it's really not a fun situation for the little guy.
Okay, Charizard is reckless, hot-headed, and difficult to control, but ultimately respects other people and will only challenge weaker opponents, which is a very nice gesture. And he also doesn't care. So Corrin, as a character, follows the player's actions exclusively. However, he focuses more on people's rights and bettering the kingdom for all of the people in it. And he's also a dragon, so, discrimination, I don't know if that counts as another race, but I'm pretty sure that if someone said that they were saying no to him for a job because he was a dragon, he'd throw a hissy fit. Next, we're going to the Democrats that are really getting out there. They're the ones that are making the rallies, doing the parades, go anti-climate change, whatever. They're the ones that are out there and they're doing the thing for the Democratic Party.
So our first Democrat, our most extreme Democrat, is Ganondorf, the most backstory Ganondorf ever gets is in Wind Waker, where he has this whole monologue about he has been the victim of injustice. That wind only brings death, and yet it brings in Hyrule something greater and something beautiful, and he wants that. He wants the wind to bring him beauty and awesome stuff. And so he tries to change things. He tries to improve things for the Gerudo, and look it up. The first time we see him in Ocarina of Time, he is negotiating. He's going at it from a political standpoint. He gets stuff done. Next we have Daisy. Daisy, look it up, guys. This is canonical. Daisy is a tomboy, a feminist who is she's a hot-headed, awesome princess. She's not even from Mushroom Kingdom. She's from another kingdom where she does things her own way. Go, Daisy!
Roy was the man who was raised to be not racist to anyone. Black, white, dragon, human, he doesn't care. Also, he's very loud. Anyone that screams "Hiya" with his sword, every single time he swings something, is gonna definitely be up in this category.
Alright. Samus. Samus is just an absolute feminist icon. She is a strong-willed, determined, awesome, amazing, determined woman who believes in equality for all, and in the past she has even made efforts to protect those who are suffering injustice. Now, Marth is the type to be leading strides in a non-violent protest towards equality and justice for everyone, and if that doesn't scream America, I don't know what does. Actually, it really doesn't scream America. That's, didn't happen till later. Ike. So Ike, he grew up in war. He was personally there as he watched as several beloved ones died and sacrificed themselves for the better of the people. And he's learned from that. He knows how to take a stand. Mega Man, he's a pacifist who only fights for justice and peace between humans and robots. And, you gotta respect that.
Bayonetta is definitely a social liberal, although not necessarily a political liberal. She favors guns and minimal regulation, but in that same breath, she really cares about others and the social welfare as a whole.
Sonic, I was a little iffy because to me, Sonic kind of screams like a Midwestern boy. If you don't understand that reference, go look at the Sonic Bible. But he's also a straight-up teenager. And like most teenagers, Sonic is idealistic, and he doesn't really completely have a hold on everything, but he's gonna do the best that he can, and he's gonna try to make that change.
Zelda is definitely a feminist icon. She's out there. She's pro-LGBTQ ally. She's up there trying to get the big reps to have to pay into the system. She's making Social Security cool again. And that's the kind of lady Zelda is. Dark Pit likes to pretend that he's self-sufficient, but really he knows that he needs others. So he knows that he will need everyone in the system to help him when he's older and needs to have that Medicaid, because angels have very bad health problems.
Okay, honestly, Ness is just a little kid who loves playing baseball. But he has hope and optimism for the future, and we need kids like that. Shulk favors brain over brawn. He's very intelligent, he's a very witty person, and he's fairly loud-spoken. I don't know, he's very loud. But he's also likely to be asked to leave the voting station because he keeps threatening to write stuff down with his massive sword. Now, young Link is, he's closer to line here. He doesn't really know exactly where to be on the scale, but he is leaning towards Democratic. However, young Link is the type of kid to get things done. He's the hero of time for a reason, and that's why he's all the way up there.
Alright, so Simon is the first in the Belmont family. He is very active and is very willing to kill Dracula, not for personal gain like the later Belmonts, but because he thinks that that is the best for the people. Also, his bride was kidnapped and killed by Dracula, so I feel like that would make him very, very passionate about everything. Because, you know, he can't bring up any sort of discussion without screaming about his dead wife.
Now for our independents. These are the people who aren't really one party or the other, and instead have chosen like an independent party for varying reasons. They're also the cool ones. Sorry, what was that? Was that political bias? Nah. Dark Samus used to be a Democrat, but then when she realized that they didn't really cause that much change in the political environment, she started leaning towards independent, aka the more radical independence, in order to, you know, cause more change for the world. She's definitely leaning towards anarchy because she's a pirate, and I love pirates. Little Mac, this boy is from the Bronx. He has seen inequality in the face, and he knows he has to fix it, but he also knows that not one party or the other is going to be able to achieve that, so he chooses independent. Lucas believes in people, and not necessarily the government. He's also a bit rebellious, but at the same time a little bit timid, or like he's kind of grown out of his timid phase and more into his rebellious stage. But he's still like very, very into politics, and he's determined to, I don't know, ensure justice. Okay, it's clear that Snake, although full-heartedly believing in justice and freedom, he holds a great disdain for politics and politicians, and so he definitely would not be on either party where there's definitely kind of radical and corrupt politicians. So he's independent. So we have Toon Link, who, let's think about it. So Toon Link is from Wind Waker, and he's coming from a world where there really is no organized like civilization. I guess on Dragon Roost Island there's like an awesome like leader man, but on at least where Toon Link is from, there is no clear leader. So coming from that world to the American like political environment, he would be very, very confused, and he would have no idea who to vote for. And at the same time, he is a literal child. Why would he doesn't have to know who to vote for.
Incineroar is cold in many ways, but he is known to be sweet to small children and the people that he looks out for. He, however, is mostly focused on his training and therefore doesn't take much of an eye to politics. Mr. Game & Watch doesn't know what's going on. He just doesn't. He doesn't vote independent because he's got some sort of ideological cause. He just votes independent because he doesn't know what either of these parties are. He just kind of runs around with his little black and white hammer and goes like, I don't know, please help me, I'm dying inside. And nobody can understand because nobody knows what Mr. Game & Watch is ever saying. It's a cry for help. With the independents all accounted for, let's move on to the apathetic Republicans. These are the people that are usually just too tired for politics, but would be conservative. There's a lot.
Pac-Man, he's old school. He wishes that things were kept more traditionally. So that is why he's over here.
Rosalina is literally the mother of millions. She's a single mom, and she's making it. But she's a lot more content to just sit back and watch things happen than actually get out and do them. Also, she makes herself princess of her children, which is a little weird. And I'm going to stick that to her traditional hierarchy complex.
Yoshi. What else did you call the up special egg throw? He's shooting people with eggs. He is a terrifying dinosaur. Fear Yoshi. Fear him.
Next we have Mewtwo, who is just opposed to science because they experimented on him, and that is not cool. But also, he doesn't care about politics because he can just punch his way out of everything. Next we have Rob, who is pro-manufacturing, but he also doesn't know how to hold a ballot because if your hands were like this, I think gripping a pencil would be hard on you too. Villager is cold and menacing. Look at his eyes. Look at them. He doesn't care for anything. He just wants to get a fishing license, no regulations, however he wants to fish. That's it. That's all he wants.
Fox looks out for his individual needs and is motivated mostly out of revenge or money. But in that same vein, he won't vote for just anyone just because of any lines. Olimar has been in space for a very, very long time. But he's also really into the traditional hierarchy and enslaving the alien races of the Peakmen. You don't want to be Olimar. Olimar's scary. He's like those old, like, Victorian imperialists. Richter, if that's how you say his name, don't blame me because I don't know how to say it. He mostly looks out for himself and isn't so concerned about changing the status quo, but is driven by personal ambition. He's drawn to the past and his family's history, and although he wants to kill Dracula for for the common good, it's more of a personal reason and he'd rather not be involved. No matter how many times Peach has been kidnapped by Bowser and her kingdom destroyed, she's always focused on the traditions of her kingdom and making sure that it's always coming back exactly the way that it was before, and that is what puts Peach firmly in the Republican area.
All right, Ken is very much in charge of, he really wants to improve himself. And he's also kind of into the traditional, you fight these people. But not so much that it'll keep him from starting an all-out brawl at the voter booth. So when he gets there to vote, it won't be voting time, it'll be fighting time.
Crom he's going to be king, and therefore he has a bit of a hierarchy complex. However, he does not let competition blind the needs of the common people. And he's also super busy, so that's why he's not really that involved in politics.
Donkey Kong loves his bananas, he loves his girlfriend, and that's pretty much it. He never leaves his house. So, yeah, he just likes his personal freedoms. Captain Falcon has to be one of my favorites. He never leaves his tiny islands where he races except for races. And he's very much into, he was a pro bounty hunter, right? Doesn't like regulations, and can appreciate competition in sport in a good way. He likes competition, and that's what republicanism is all about. That was a mass oversimplification. Please don't take my word for that. Duck Hunt just wants no gun control. He doesn't want any restrictions on his hunting.
Squirtle is all about protecting himself in his tiny little shell because he is a literal baby. You are fighting a literal baby.
Greninja is a hired hand in the military. He doesn't do much if someone hasn't hired him to do it. But he is known for saving people and their villages, and for that, we need to give him a military salute. Okay. Now we're going to be talking about the high efficacy and deeply Republican side of the spectrum. Maddie, you can take this one.
What? No, I guess I'll die.
King K. Rool is the most Republican of all the Republicans. He's really into maintaining his own power and maintaining the traditional hierarchy of basically him just demolishing everything, which is essentially what political parties do.
So Wario just kind of started off being jealous of Mario's success, and he strives to find his own success. He's also like a super mega capitalist. He's very, very active and a stinky boy.
Bowser is King Koopa. Obviously, he's got a hierarchy complex, but he's not a 10 on the efficacy scale because he's concerned about keeping his voice down in front of his son. He's a single father, and that's got to have something said about him. Drifting far from his blue-collar plumber works and being an Italian-American, Mario, yeah, he's conquering worlds. He's out there. He's spreading the message. He's ultimately in competition with everything and everyone. Therefore, he's pretty much the same as Bowser. Bet you didn't expect that.
Meta Knight upholds a fierce code of chivalry and knighthood, which puts him firmly in the conservative. He's also focused on protecting the weak and, you know, all that jazz. He's also very much into industry because metal. How else is he gonna get his metal? Lucina is a fierce warrior with unwavering commitment to her family and to justice. She will do whatever it takes to protect those who she loves.
Bowser Jr. is influenced heavily by his father. Therefore, he's also a Republican with pretty high efficacy, but a little less so because he's still young and developing his ideas. Seriously, why do we have so many children? They're all under 18.
Luigi! Luigi's my favorite, by the way. He's so much cooler than Mario. But sadly, he only really does follow Mario because he hasn't quite realized his own potential and how awesome he himself can be. But because he does follow Mario, he's also in this higher area. Dr. Mario is he's a doctor, and I think that's all that needs to be said about him.
Pitt is a Republican, funny enough. He is very much into the hard-working struggle of the middle class he's into the hard-working struggle just in general. And he's into a firm hierarchy system. And he doesn't know how to read. Palutena is also a Republican. She also believes in hierarchy and getting stuff done that way. Although she's actually a literal goddess, so I think that religion part tones her into the Republican a little bit more too. But whatever it is, she kind of keeps her in her own bubble a little bit more. They are children with guns. What are you thinking, Nintendo? And obviously, they're just kind of like, oh, I like guns, this party likes guns, therefore I like this party. They don't know what they're doing, they're not 18 yet. They need restrictions placed on them. Make them get licenses, something. I don't want 8-year-olds walking around with like military-grade weapons, do you? No, they're gonna get mad at you for not giving them the right ice cream flavor and shoot off your head. This is what the Inklings would do.
Link. You may be curious, what is Link doing in this area? Well, in a second. He is a knight with a firm belief in the government and a firm belief in Zelda, who is also a Democrat, but, you know, government and tradition and stuff. And he has a strong sense of justice. He may not speak his mind very well, but he doesn't need to because he will fight for it. And that's the type of man you should be. Yeah, finally, we have Falco, who is brash and cocky and also leader of pilots, and he's got serious attitude. He thinks he knows best, but ultimately he's only really looking out for his subordinates and doesn't really care so much about parties as policy. So that's what I think should be a good value in politics. You may be wondering, where are the rest of them? Aren't there like 10 or so more? Well, you're right. They're in the Shadow Realm. The Shadow Realm.
The Shadow Realm.
The Shadow Realm.
The Shadow Realm is the group that we kind of didn't feel belonged in the spectrum. They're kind of just everywhere at once. It's like the people that have very firm pro-gun ideas, but also are pro-life on this side. And, you know, are very pro-LGBTQ rights, but at the same time, they don't want to tax the wealthy. They're everywhere. And you know what? On every issue, they've got some sort of opinion. Maybe it's strong, maybe it's very weak, but basically, they don't fit in the political spectrum because they are everywhere. Isabelle might seem small and sweet, but if she's got an issue she's passionate about, she'll mess you up right quick.
King he kind of switches. He switches a lot according to what benefits him most. In other words, he's a very, very selfish man. But he also switches not only in how much he cares and how much, like, which party benefits him, but also by whose side he's on. So that's what puts him over here.
Kirby is a contradictory character within himself. The same loving arms that can give you a hug and rejuvenate your hearts will also suck you into their mouth and destroy you, obliterating you in the stomach acid, and then absorbing your soul and powers and spit you back up again. He's super tough, but he's a pink puff. There's no mapping this guy. absolute unit. Lucario can read people's minds. That's just kind of freaky.
Ridley seems like the guy to switch very, very quickly and very, very scarily, according to what benefits him most. He's kind of like in the same kind of King Dedede range, but scarier. Much, much scarier. Let's be real. Robin be everywhere on every single spectrum. The intelligence spectrum, the political ideology spectrum, even the gay spectrum.
Wolf has basically the only characterization of being a rival to Fox, and to be honest, he will admit when an opponent is great and powerful, and he will actually admit some sort of defeat and say that they are an amazing person, but what he defines as amazing and wonderful is a little bit sketchy, and yeah, I don't know what he defines as these things. So basically, he's everywhere.
Pikachu doesn't really have a specific political meaning, but whatever he puts his heart to, he does so almost religiously. And then I guess I don't really know where Pichu really belongs.
I got this.
So-
Just slap him on top of Pikachu. They're the same.
They are
Fight me.
they're the same. They are exactly the same.
And now, Miss Roots, for the assignment part. For this, we decided to take the two most vocal and most extreme parts of the scale and compare them to political parties. That way we have a single solid base to do so.
These would be Ganondorf for the Democrats and King K. Rool for the Republicans.
First of all, they are both very focused on world domination, although through very different means. This is like political parties in how they want to take over everything and rule out any opposition to their ideals. If a political party could, they would be in Congress, they'd be in the Senate, they'd be in the House, they would be in the presidency and on the Supreme Court. I don't know why I said that part weird, but basically political parties try to take over everything, like these two people. Animals? Villains? Question marks?
Next, both of them require support and a firm grip on the general populace in order to stay alive or in political sense in power. Once Link or Donkey Kong really start pointing out flaws in their plans and systems, they start to lead a general uprising. And then these two don't really survive that long. The exception being in Breath of the Wild, where Link is way too busy finding all those shrines and talking to more Koroks than he probably should be. They both require a firm base and the kind of support, they both require a firm base and the support of the people that they are trying to control.
Both characters, like political parties, don't give in to demands easily, even when they're pretty reasonable. Zelda just wants her castle back, and Donkey Kong honestly just wants to be left alone. However, because of Ganondorf and Rool's unforgiving natures, they are unlikely to put such simple demands out of concern and actually address them than without some sort of force behind it. And this is like political parties in which the Democrats and Republicans are unlikely to compromise on any demands unless there's some sort of consequence or force acting behind it, such as, well, if you don't do this, nothing's going to get passed, and if nothing gets passed, nothing changes, and people are outside getting pretty angry and spraying fake blood everywhere.
So much like the libertarians or the other independent parties in real life, there's not really that many of them. So with so little independence, under like 10% or something on this graph, they don't get a lot of support. Usually they only really side with one or the other party to get any kind of voice.
Lastly, both major parties aren't so different. Both of these are portrayed as the mentally unstable and insatiable monsters in their own games. They are perceived as the villains and are told that they're ruthless and unkind. In our minds, we might think of these two characters as exactly the same, and that just shows how small the political spectrum really is.
Next time you play this wonderful game, hoping for a bit of fun in this collapsing political landscape, just remember, now you can play the characters that you connect with the most in political ideology, and remember that not even video games are safe from politics. And with that, I think we're done. I think it's over.
It's over.
Time for me to hurl my body off the nearest cliff.
We missed him. He was hiding under the table. This is Cloud. He's a soldier. He don't care. Like me right now. As you can see, we already tore everything down, and I don't care anymore. And he's against eco-terrorism. So anyone that's trying to do anything against the people's expense in general. Also against sort of climate change, I guess. So he's a Republican, but he's also all the way down here, which I know that doesn't matter anymore, but look, we're done. I'm so happy. You're going in the trash, buddy.